The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose. The app is so easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, like live same-game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, the best way to find popular parlays, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/247 and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
Must be 21 plus and present in Arizona, Colorado, Connecticut, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, permitted parishes only, Massachusetts, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. First online real money wager only. $10 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit fanduel.com/RG in Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Virginia. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 in Arizona, 1-888-789-7777, or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana, 1-800-522-4700, or visit ksgamblinghelp.com in Kansas, 1-877-770-STOP in Louisiana. Visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net in West Virginia, or call 1-800-522-4700 in Wyoming. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York, or visit oasas.ny.gov/gambling. Standard text messaging rates apply. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited.
If you're in the market for investment-worthy bags, watches, and fine jewelry, Rebag is the answer. Rebag is a luxury resale marketplace where each piece is carefully vetted and verified by experts to ensure quality and authenticity. If you're in the market, use Rebag to buy and sell finds from the world's top brands, including Hermes, Chanel, and Cartier. Head to Rebag.com to get 10% off your first purchase with code REBAG10. Shop today at Rebag.com. That's REBAG.com, and use promo code REBAG10 for 10% off your first purchase.
Welcome to the PowerCat Podcast, GoPowercat.com's Kansas State Athletics Show. Now, here's your host, GoPowercat publisher, Tim Fitzgerald.
Welcome to another edition of The Insiders following Kansas State's loss at Missouri. So many things to talk about out of that game. Tim Fitzgerald, the old offensive lineman, Brien Hanley to my side, and down there is Mr. Tim Everson and Glenn Kinsley. You can see their outlets right there. We three were at the game, and the guy who knows the most about football was at home, but Tim can attest to this. That's a good thing because we had no replays in the press box. We had like the Jumbotron feed, and it was virtually useless. We had no press box announcer. We were just kind of there in a giant box in the sky watching football from a distance. Glenn was on the field, which I think is a horrible way to watch a game, personally, ironically. But on TV was probably the best view. So we have different angles on this, and it'll be interesting to see to hear what everyone thinks about that game. Remember, if you're new to this page, to this channel, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Make sure you're hitting the thumbs up and to like the video. We hope you like the video, and leave comments if you choose. And let's get going as we do every week. Brien, give me the things that K-State did wrong that led to defeat, because that was a winnable game, but Missouri gets it on a 30-27 decision on the last second 61-yard SEC record field goal. That was one hell of a way for the Tigers to win a game. As a college football fan, that was cool, but I felt for the K-State Nation. Give me some of your thoughts.
Well, the first thing is, the elephant in the room, and we've been talking about it. The offensive line, they could not block Missouri's D line when it came to pass protection. They could not block them. And just like we talked about last week against Troy, Fitz, you mentioned it, is the blueprint. Missouri just said, we're going to blitz. We're going to see if we're going to get one-on-one blocking, and I think one of our guys is going to be better than one of yours, and that turned out to be the case. And we just couldn't block them. Could not block them. It just blows my mind that if this is supposedly the strength of the team, that we're 3 weeks in and we can't get it figured out. And it was noticeable everywhere. Yeah. The one thing I will say is that we could have run the football. We could have run the football because K-State did okay running the football. I don't think a recipe for success is dropping back 45, 50 times a game and trying to go win. When K-State, they were, and I know that's weird to say. I just talked about the offensive line couldn't pass block them. They couldn't, but they could run block the guys. And when we stopped running side to side and started running at them, we had success. So that to me was just disheartening. I mean, we could go all day about the secondary. I mean, if we're going to talk about that, because I don't think that Brady Cook is going to remind us of Joe Montana, but he did on Saturday. So more power to him. We got a lot of things to clean up.
Well, let me point this stat out while you're on that. Cook threw for an impressive 356 yards. An amazing and incredible 146 of it was after the catch.
Yeah.
Luther Burden, who we'll get to, he was a beast of Burden. 114 yards, 84 of which were after the catch. He caught the ball 30 yards downfield and turned it into 2 touchdowns and 84 yards of running after the catch. Absolutely impressive. But, Tim, it comes back to the ground game for me. They got it going. I'll just – the other elephant in the room is the fact that Avery Johnson came in and had some effectiveness running the zone read, and he even got them in a position to pick up a first down. They took him off the field, and they didn't convert on third. It just seemed like once Mizzou committed to blitzing and pressured the line of scrimmage, it threw out Colin Klein's entire offensive game plan, and he was doing it on the fly, and he got himself a little tied up there. He just didn't seem to get a rhythm to his play calling.
There were so many drives that stalled out after no or one first down. I don't know. I just wonder if, you do get, caught up in, Will has been here in this situation before, even if he is banged up. He's gotten all but one game that he started on the road since last year. He's won. Let's put the game on his shoulders and make it happen, and not trust a running game that still has some unknowns to it. But looking back, I wonder, especially whenever he got banged up late in the game, would things have been different if they would have put Avery out there and said, hey, full things at your disposal, run, pass, whatever, do it. I found it super interesting that, they got Avery out, the second drive of the game, and they have him hand off the first couple times. They have him run a couple times. They never once have him try to throw the ball. Maybe that's just a read that he's making at the time, but it felt like they were leading up to something that never took place, and that was odd.
Yeah, that's what every ex-girlfriend would say about our relationships. My wife fell for the trick. It led to marriage. Glenn, you were there. Just give me some thoughts, man. I'm so dumbfounded by some of the stuff I saw K-State do, including coaching, that I'm beginning to consider how good this team actually is, because they just blundered through this game.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot that we found out needs to be cleaned up, and probably a lot of things that we saw against Troy that we were like, well, they didn't look great, but they won by 30 points, so surely it's fine. And then we found out maybe it wasn't fine. I will say this, though, to be the glass half full guy, because maybe we need it in the group right now. If he misses that field goal, 61 yards, which every other SEC kicker in history has missed, and K-State wins in overtime, then we're probably sitting here, and I'm not saying that there weren't still issues, but we're probably talking about how hard fought it was, and they fought out a good win on the road, and an SEC team. if he misses that field goal and they win in overtime, even if all else remains the same. Now, I'm not saying that everything else looks great, even if they win that game. That doesn't erase some of those errors. But I think, and the defense had some concerns for sure. But really, the offense had a drive where they had 3rd and goal on the 3-yard line, delay a game, pushes them back. They don't convert, settle for a field goal to tie the game instead of going up 4, which would have meant Missouri had to get 6 and couldn't have kicked that field goal. And then people talking about that drive. The offense had another drive after that. They had that drive where they got 3 to tie it. Then they forced, I think, a Missouri 3 and out and got the ball back and then couldn't put anything together on that drive. Now, I don't know how much of that you can attribute to Will not being fully healthy because he wasn't even close. He climbed us after the game. He put it simply. He goes, he couldn't run. It was not an option. And you could tell he was hobbling around. He played through a lot of pain, and I don't know how much of that impacted it because even if you say, well, Will doesn't run that much, yes, he doesn't, but it's different when the defense knows he can't, right? That changes things. And so I don't know how much of that you can attribute to that. Ultimately, the defense let up the big play, which is concerning, but the defense also forced a lot of punts and held them to a lot of field goals. When Missouri, it felt like had a lot of drives. It was a game where both teams threw a lot of punches all throughout the game, figuratively speaking. And Missouri got the last one with a kick that I think left most of us with our jaws on the floor.
Yeah, it was incredible. Here's the 2 things I want to mention out of what I just heard. One, the play where Will Howard did attempt to run and had to slide before he got to the first down. When a healthy Will Howard goes past the first down and keeps going, told me, look, if you can't run your offense the way it needs to be run with Will, maybe you should try something different here. And you know what? They're smarter than me. They didn't do it. They probably had their reasons. Maybe they just simply didn't want Avery in that situation quite yet in his young career. Number 2, I'm just going to be really honest here. That delay of game penalty on Missouri that backed them up from the 56-yard field goal to the 61-yard field goal because the coaches thought they had a timeout. There was like I don't know what happens in that stadium. We saw referees many years ago black out and gave Colorado 5 downs. And this time we saw the entire Missouri sideline forget that they were out of timeouts and they just spiked the ball. There wasn't a timeout. They just stopped the clock and they get a delay of game. But that is only thought of as maybe the bigger blunder in this game, even in a Missouri win, because he made the field goal. Because if he misses that field goal, it's all happening over again because K-State put Phil Brooks on the field wearing number 8 when Will Lee wearing number 8 was at the end of the line, just clearly visible to the back judges, and they dropped a flag. If he misses that field goal, they're getting the 5 yards back and moving it straight up to kick a 56-yarder. And believe me, the howls from K-State fans about coaching right then and there would have been awful. Yes. So in some ways, the made field goal gave K-State fans or K-State's coaches a less grief from that game. It just wasn't a well-coached game by either team, and it was a well-played game by one guy in particular, and he let K-State know it after the game. Talked a lot of trash post-game, which I didn't think was much of a tradition. But Luther Burden, Brien, 7 catches for 114 yards. He was unstoppable. He absolutely made the K-State secondary look silly because, as I mentioned, he caught the ball not far down the field and then just said, "You guys can't catch me." And he was right. They couldn't catch him for the most of the afternoon.
Yeah, I mean, he's a special talent, a special player. And we talked about it, how he was going to be a problem, and he was an absolute problem. I know going into the season we were optimistic about the secondary, but again, while Luther Burden is outstanding, I just think there's better things coming down the road that K-State's going to face. The secondary is going to have to pick it up and get better. Either that or we're going to have to change some type of scheme because, look, like I said, Brady Cook is fine. He had a great game. He did. But he's not Joe Montana. And he picked us apart. And that's unacceptable. I know we go back to a lot of things. And look, we got to help the secondary too. You can't continue to rush 3 guys up front and they're blocking us and think that that's going to be okay. Guys eventually are going to get open. That's the way it works. We don't have a first-round draft pick on our defensive line that occupies 2, sometimes 3 blockers, and then we're just beating one-on-one. That's not what we have right this second, okay? So at some point, we have got to make a concerted effort to do some things differently to help everybody else on the field. And that's why people get so mad about the coaching aspect of it, is because, guys, they're picking us apart. We got to do something different. It didn't seem like it ever happened.
Yep,
well, Brien, the other thing I would mention too, Klein said after the game, they asked him how much confusion he saw in that secondary. He said he saw more panic than confusion. I think a few of these younger guys who, I know they played a little bit last year, some of them did, but a lot of them didn't play a lot last year, and then they could keep up with the guys from Troy and the guys from SEMO. And I do wonder if when a guy like Luther Burden just takes off, if there's any sort of hesitation of any oh crap moment or any question in your mind of can I keep up with him, by the time you get that thought through your mind, gone. It's done with. And so I'll be interested to see if that does come with time. If there wasn't, he didn't say there was no confusion, but he said there was more panic than confusion. If it wasn't confusion, maybe that's something they get figured out, is these guys get more comfortable and they don't hit the panic button when this guy takes off on him. Instead, he says, okay, I got to go. I'm with him.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I believe that there was panic. I mean, you could see it, especially on the first touchdown throw. I mean, like, you're not even turning the right way when he's running past you, and then the ball's over your head, and you couldn't even see it. I'm not sure I've seen that a lot of times at a Division I safety. I'll be honest. I've watched a whole lot of football. I haven't seen a lot of times where the ball's going over the safety's head, and he has no idea where the ball is. So, you know, they just got to be better. That's all. They just got to be better.
Tim, Marquis Siegel got a trial by fire and left pretty scorched. He was kind of lost back there. He's new to the position, but boy, that is now an exposed weakness, and he's got to get better real fast in this conference.
It's unfortunate because in the past, when they've had guys like Josh Hayes come in who have kind of made that transition, it's worked out so well and so seamlessly, or at least it's appeared that way. But I don't know if it's maybe just missing that first week and still trying to kind of get your feet under you. You don't get that kind of that easy, walking in game against SEMO that everyone else got. He wasn't awful versus Troy, but he was out. I mean, he was outmanned. It was tough. It was tough to watch. They put in Colby McAllister eventually. But this, I mean, the way that they've talked him up, I would assume that things are going to get better. I would assume that he kind of recovers, but going back to the whole panic thing, I wonder, because guys like Jacob Parrish, I mean, they had to guard like Quentin Johnson last year. I mean,
yeah,
they've seen guys. I don't know if it's just the road environment led to that also a little bit, or what it was, but I found that interesting. Maybe, I mean, Will Lee maybe hasn't been in that kind of scenario, so you can point to him and some of the other secondary. But Jacob Parrish, whenever you talk to him, he's very much talked about how much he likes being one-on-one. He thinks he can keep up with anyone. And up to this point, that's kind of shown. So I don't know. It's a lot of things to figure out here in the next several days.
Yeah, it certainly is. They've got some things that are broken, including their starting quarterback. Glenn and Tim, you were both there along with me, watching Will Howard try to come down those stairs for our post game. Guys, I don't know how he's going to be ready for Saturday. And with a week off after this, I almost feel like even if he could play, they might just use him as the backup in this game to see what Avery can do and try to get him healed up. If it doesn't work, put him in. But if it does work, you get him for 2 weeks rest before going to Oklahoma State. I thought he looked I don't see how he's going to play, guys.
Yeah, we asked him post game, and like a wise man, he said it was my leg. Well, thanks, that narrows it down.
Yeah,
but
we knew that.
I think it all comes down to what the injury is and if it's going to get worse. You could see the bye week different ways. On one hand, if it's something that he can play on and he's not going to worsen the injury, then they might say, hey, let's get him out there. He's going to play through some pain, but he's going to play. And then he's got a full week off to recover after that. On the flip side of that, if it is something where they think there's even a chance that, okay, if he goes out there and gets hit the wrong way, then he's out 6 weeks instead of 1 or 2, then they're like, we got a bye week next week. This is the only time all year we're going to get him off the field for 2 straight weeks, and maybe you do hold off. I don't know what the injury is. My utter guess, just because they left him out there, is that maybe it is something that wasn't going to get worse with playing on it, because I don't think they were – this felt like Missouri's Super Bowl. This was not K-State's Super Bowl. If K-State was not going to sacrifice a Big 12 championship for Will Howard to go out and maybe get a win against Missouri, it wasn't worth it to them. So my guess is that if he kept playing on it, it was something where their training staff or whoever said, hey, he's not going to feel good, but he can go out and play, and it's not going to be term. That's just my guess, though.
Tim, when the game was going on, I thought it was an ankle, but when he came down the stairs, it looked like a knee. It looked like he was locked up that knee, and I wonder if he just didn't take a direct strike to the knee, maybe just hitting the ground, and, had a contusion that was, filling up with some just kind of getting stiff on him and swelling on him, and he couldn't move it. But again, that's all guesswork.
Yeah, no, I don't know. When he was asked particularly about, whether he thought about coming out, he was, obviously very disappointed and not happy in the moment, but was like, look, it was good enough to play on, and that's all that matters. If that is still the case, I can see them trying another situation where they have him come out there and they bring in Avery to be the Wildcat quarterback of sorts. And I think we've seen K-State coaches try to do that in the past on several different scenarios, and it's not been the best results. I think that you want your guy. And to be clear, aside from the one interception, Will Howard played a pretty good game. I mean, he had multiple touchdowns, over 200 yards. He's like his 8th straight game with multiple touchdowns, which is up there as far as K-State quarterbacks are concerned, at least going back quite a ways. He played well. It's just they needed someone more mobile, and that just could not have been him last year.
And the first time that I saw him start to hobble was, I believe, he had 2 touchdown runs, neither of them counted. I think it was the one in the second half when they had to score 3 times. When Will ran in, didn't count. Threw it to Jaden Jackson, didn't count. And then I think they got it to Senate, and it did count. That was the first. And I'm not saying that was the first time that he limped. I don't know. That was the first time that I saw it filming the game from the sideline. He took off to run to the pylon. In the first 3 steps, he was moving, and in the next about 4 steps, I think all came on one leg. He was hopping to get to that end zone. And I don't know if that's what he could have just pulled something or came down on it wrong or hyperextended or whatever. Or maybe, like you said, Fitz, it could have been that he got hit hard on the previous play, and that was just the first time that we saw the effect of it when he tried to take off and running and go, oh, wait, that's not good. But that was the first time that I saw it. I don't know if that's the play he got hurt on, but it was clear on that one. I saw him limp the other way, and I go, that didn't look good.
Yeah.
No.
He played the end of that game looking like me getting out of bed in the morning. You just don't know if it's going to get anywhere, and it might fall down at any moment. Brien, give me a positive. Even if it was a loss, there's got to be a positive, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, look, K-State, they fought.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing that you can say. The team fought hard. The offense, like I mentioned before, when we decided to run the ball at Missouri, we were just fine. We could get yards. I just think we went away from it more often than what we should have. And again, chunk plays aren't necessary every single snap. It's okay to get 5 here, 4 here. They were doing that. So I thought they ran the ball well. When we decided to run it, I thought we ran it well. Again, getting the experience of the football game, I think the guys fought to the end. To me, there wasn't a ton positive. I'll be honest. I just didn't think there was that much positive. I thought the coaching let us down. I just thought some of the things that the guys just weren't put in positions to make the plays. That's all. I'm not trying to be, Debbie Downer or anything like that. I'm just being honest about what I saw during the football game. I do think that the defense kind of got after him a little bit, but again, you got to put the guys in position to make plays. I think we have enough pass rushers. But rushing 3 against 5 and 6, it's not going to work. It's just not going to work.
In that third quarter, Tim, when they brought some pressure and made Brady Cook a little more uncomfortable, we saw his completion percentage go down. And then I don't know if Missouri adjusted to that or K-State backed out of that, but lo and behold, late in the game, he's back there operating free, and you give that kid a clean pocket, he's good. The problem isn't he can't throw it or run it. Sometimes he gets rattled, and they didn't do much to rattle him, and he had a tremendous game. He wasn't the MVP, but he was a close second to Luther Burden.
Well, the biggest question mark that Missouri had going in was an offensive line that had struggled mightily the last 2 weeks. And after the Middle Tennessee State game, Drinkwitz was very emphatic about how they were going to fix whatever issues, and they were going to try new people out there. And whatever they did, it worked, at least partially. I mean, it didn't work on the run game. They still weren't able to run block. They only had 60 rushing yards or whatever, and one of those came on 32 of those came on that one run by Strader. But aside from that, yeah, they only had 2 sacks. When going into the game, I was like, this K-State's defensive line is going to eat this kid alive. Like, I was worried for his health. And that obviously turned out not to be the case. They figured it out, and I think that is one of the bigger catalysts in how effective the Tigers' offense looked against K-State's defense, because he had time. He figured it out.
Probably an important note too. Brady Cook played maybe the game of his career, and then you can go back and forth on how much of that was because of K-State's defense versus how much of that was just he played really well. But you're talking about a guy that got booed by the Missouri fans when they announced him as the starter for the game. And if you're a K-State fan, you watch that game, you're saying, why were you booing this guy? He was pretty dang good. He doesn't typically play like that every Saturday. Now, again, maybe that's a K-State problem. Why was he able to play like that against the Cats? Or maybe that was just sometimes you get a guy and he has a good day against you.
Okay, so last year I was really critical of Coach Drinkwitz and some of the things he did during the course of the game. And aside from the incredible delay of game there late in the game, I thought his staff outcoached K-State by far. But then he goes into the post game and criticizes his own fans for booing Brady Cook. And I get why he wants them to stop that. But Brien, this was a significant win. The crowd had stormed the field. The students are having a blast. It's a joyous day. Why bring the negativity right then and there? I just thought it was odd. I'm like, don't be your own distractions. Let people have fun. Come back in the press conference next week and say, can we stop this now? You booed him in the pregame. Can we stop it now? But not after the game, man.
You beat me to it, Fitz. That's a Tuesday press conference conversation. That's a Tuesday press conference conversation. Not after that. He should have just been up in arms, happy that they won the game, celebrate, and then mention it, the next week. But, it sometimes if you don't have a whole lot of experience in this situation or that type of setting, I mean, I'm sure his emotions got the best of him, but I just, he's paid a lot of money to make right decisions, and that just wasn't a good decision.
Glenn, I think Missouri's pretty good, but the head coach just seems to be always getting in his own way. I don't understand this man at all. Again, he just reminds me so much of Ron Prince. It bugs the hell out of me.
It's interesting. The way I put it to someone else yesterday, I think that he wants to have a lot of mic drop moments. I think that he does. And I think he loves to have these moments where he sounds off in a press conference and then he says, oh, shoot, did that go viral? Like, how did that happen? He goes on this long rant. He did the same thing about conference realignment. You probably remember, and I'm not against that rant. I mean, he probably made some good points. But I think he started both of those with something like, you know what, I'll say it. And it's almost like he gets this big speech in his mind and then he acts like it wasn't planned at all. And he acts like it just happened to come out. And then I don't know. I mean, maybe that's strategic. Like maybe that stuff's good for recruiting when he goes on a rant about how much he cares about the student athletes and it gets 6 million views or whatever. I mean, maybe that is, but I just find it a little bit funny, I guess is maybe the word. It seems like he really wants to to say stuff that is going to get a rise out of people in that press conference, good or bad.
Okay, Tim, I'm going to give you the final thought, wrapping up the Missouri K-State game, which was a great college football game. Man, I got to tell you, I just love college football so much. Saturday, it sucked for me personally because you cover the game, you work, and then you drive 4 hours back. You get home at 10. I missed one of the most incredible, epic, wonderful days in college football. We thought there were no good games on the slate, and it just turned into a total crap fest. But losing in the way that K-State lost was part of that incredible day.
Yeah.
So give me a wrap. What's your final thoughts on the Missouri game?
Yeah, it's tough. If it was not particularly a fun game to kind of endure. I think if you were an outside party of the two,
right,
it probably was a lot more interesting to watch. I think that if K-State got some things exposed the last couple weeks, they were really exposed now. So you can take away the fact that they know what to work on now. It's on film. They have it in front of them, whether they are able to do it or not. Missouri fans, great. This is the best moment that they've had in about a decade. And they proved that by tweeting out that their athletic department had created a T-shirt commemorating the win. So the Missouri fans that are in the chat right now, congratulations. That's for you guys. I hope you will have yours ordered. And you can wear it next week. And it's going to be more of a process for this team to kind of find its right. form than we maybe thought it was going to be. But that's okay. I mean, that's conference play starts next week. It's a whole new chapter, whole new book, and you gotta find ways to get better this week.
As a guy who covers his school, his alma mater, that went through the T-shirt for every win phase, don't do it, Missouri. Steer away. It's a trap, man. Get out. It just doesn't look good. Before we go to break, a little reminder, make sure you're subscribing to this YouTube channel, but mostly make sure you turn on your notifications because I have a conflict next week, so we're not doing this at 1:30 p.m. in the middle of the afternoon next Monday. I'll be in Kansas City at that moment talking to another cancer doctor. It's so fun. They're such nice people. They really are, actually. So we're going to do the Insiders in prime time. We'll be on at 7 p.m. instead of 1:30 next week. We're going to crunch Glenn in during his Mr. TV Guy dinner break. That's right. He calls it a lunch break, but it's 7 p.m. I got to explain to him how these things work. But he might be eating a sandwich while we do this. You might maybe some get a giant turkey leg and eat that.
I'm a big chicken and rice guy. I like to make the same thing every week and eat it every week. I might just have a chicken breast. I'll just shove a fork into it. And I'll do it mostly while Brian's talking so that I don't distract anyone. But
that's why he's the skinny guy on the cast. He eats chicken breast and rice. Okay, so we're going to park the break here. And if you're new to this break lasts 3 seconds here on YouTube, or 4 seconds actually. But this is where we'll put the ads for the podcast version. You can always catch this on your favorite podcast provider or the replay right here on YouTube or at GoPowercat. We will be right back.
GoPowercat.com's PowerCat podcast continues after this short break.
Selling a little or a lot? Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage, to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's here to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell everywhere. From their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system, wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout. 15% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms. And sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. And Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Odyssey Podcast.
Welcome back to the PowerCat Podcast.
Okay, guys, let's move on to K-State playing UCF. And UCF is on its backup quarterback right now. Maybe K-State will be on its backup quarterback. I've made a decision on a couple fronts. I am not going to bet on Big 12 football in any way this year because I have no freaking clue what's going on in this.
I don't think anyone does.
Brien, I think this conference is really bad. And I am now even looking at the big, incredible Texas win in Alabama and questioning it based on Alabama's performance. And granted, the conditions were awful in the Tampa area on Saturday, but still struggling with USF isn't a good sign. I don't know what to say about this conference, but there's some bad teams. Yes, and two of them play each other this week, Oklahoma State and Iowa State. I'm actually cheering. I know this is going to be a little controversial. I'm cheering for Yellowstone to erupt before that game kicks off, so none of us have to ever be exposed to it. But Brien, how bad is this conference, or am I wrong? Is it just the most wonderful conference ever?
The over-under on that game set at about 19 and a half, I think. Is that right?
I mean, you're definitely not wrong, Fitz. You are 100% not wrong. Bad football all around. Texas is really good. Look, let's just be honest. Texas is really good. I think OU is better. They haven't been tested at all, so we'll still hold the verdict out on how good Oklahoma is. I'm still not sold on their quarterback. I watched a little bit of that game against Tulsa, and Tulsa is not good. Man, it's tough because of how good the Big 12 was last year and the last few years, and it was really good. And then this year, I mean, for Oklahoma State to just get battered by South Alabama. And then Iowa. First of all, why is Iowa State even going to Ohio? That's number one. But number two, to go there and can't score any points, you get beat by Ohio 10-7. I'm like, that's not good. That's not good. And then a team that we thought wasn't going to be very good, BYU, goes to Arkansas and wins. Who knew? Who knew? And then you flip that over, and then Cincinnati loses to Miami of Ohio. I'm like, oh, my goodness, what is going on? So I don't know. Look, we're licking our wounds in the Big 12. Hopefully K-State can lick their wounds quick and get back to winning ways because I still believe that we have a very talented team. I still think that they're very good. We just have things that we have to work on and things that we just have to be better at that haven't materialized for kind of a veteran team that I thought would have already taken place.
Tim, how much money would it take to make you go cover the Oklahoma State-Iowa State game?
Is it in Stillwater or Ames?
It's in Ames.
That's a lot more than it need to be pretty significant. I think. I mean, I get the bridge. So.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you just took the words out of my mouth. You get to see the bridge. That's priceless. Look, there's going to be some teams that have pretty good records in this conference at the end of the season that may not be very good. That might include Kansas State. I don't know. I think they're still going to be pretty good. But Cincinnati, Iowa State, Oklahoma State, and Houston, and maybe West Virginia, because Pitt might really stink.
Yeah.
All might be just wins for almost everyone, and they might play each other in a festival of crap and decide, someone might go 3-1 against them if they play all of each other. I don't know, guys, but I know this. Oklahoma opens Big 12 play at Cincinnati. That should be a win. And I believe then they go home and play Iowa State, if I remember that correctly. We still won't know a damn thing about Oklahoma 2 games into the Big 12.
Yeah, I looked at their schedule because preseason, I think their win total was set at 8.5 or 9.5.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I go, well, that's not right. And you know,
look at the games.
Thinking about betting on the under, and I look at their schedule and I go, oh, they're going to win 8 or 9 games.
Yeah.
And, I mean, their last year in the Big 12, they got, you know, we don't know everything about all these teams, so it's hard to say 3 weeks into the season if that's an easy game, that's a hard game. But looking at it, if you look at all the Big 12 schedule, I would find it hard to believe that Oklahoma isn't one of the easier ones.
I agree. I mean, the fact that Kansas State, again, I've said this a million times, and it really angers me. It's not this way. Every old Big 8 team should be playing Oklahoma this year, and every old Southwest Conference team should be playing Texas.
Absolutely.
I don't know why that wasn't a priority in scheduling, but Oklahoma got off K-State's hook, and that worked out really well for them. But I think one of the more intriguing games this weekend, and I'll get to UCF Kansas State, though, is BYU going to Kansas, because I think Kansas is still really good. Brien, that seemed like I watched as much of that game as I could because I was falling asleep. But that KU game at Nevada just seemed like one of those games that happens. And you just got to survive it and move on, and you're fine. I think KU is going to be fine. I refuse to believe that the Nevada coaching staff that had lost 2 games so awfully to start the season uncovered some secret code to stopping KU. I'm not going to believe that. I just think KU was playing late night. They were off schedule, and they got in a tussle, and they won. And I think they're better for it. But BYU going to Kansas in light of them winning at Arkansas, BYU, I'm intrigued. I want to watch this one.
Well, here's the thing. And look, you know me, Fitz. I will never, and guys, just so you guys know, I'd never say anything nice about KU. Just not gonna happen. I just don't do that. However, this is a game that in years past KU loses.
Yeah,
and they might lose big. So for them to be able to win that game, and they didn't play well. I saw bits and pieces of it. They didn't play well. They are way better than Nevada. Nevada's awful. They're awful. But again, KU won the football game, and sometimes you just got to go somewhere and win. And that's the sign of at least a program that's getting better, is when you can go beat a team that you're supposed to beat, where you play lousy, but you still win the football game. So kudos to them. I watched a lot of that BYU Arkansas game. Arkansas didn't, they had some penalties and stuff, but BYU went and took the game from them. So that's the difference. I think that it's going to be a good game. I would suspect KU is better, but I think that's going to be a really, really good football game. And maybe we were wrong about BYU. Maybe BYU is going to be better than what we had anticipated. We'll see. We'll see. A conference play is a whole other ball game, as we all know. So we'll find out. But I'm intrigued by that football game.
Me too. Glenn, did you go to KU's press conference today?
I didn't. Laney was there, though.
Laney? I think they're going to be fine. I think Lance Leipold's calm nature will just, rub off on the team. My sidekick on the drive, Michael Swindon, was talking about the oddity of having to fly back on Sundays, so the NCAA now counts that as a day in your schedule. So they had to practice late night on Sunday night to get a practice in. Stupid to the nth degree, like the NCAA is. But
unbelievable.
I think they're mostly off today, I would assume. But they're going to be fine. But I think this is going to be a great game because BYU's got to be flying high.
Yeah, I think Leipold gets it too. He said after the game, he goes, look, this football program, if you look at our recent years, he's in a position to be complaining about how we win. He goes, we won a football game, and we're going to take the victory. Now, the first thing he said immediately after that is we're going to find ways to clean it up. He's not saying, hey, we won. Let's just sunshine and rainbows. Let's go. Hopefully we'll win again next week, right? He was saying, hey, there was some issues, but we won the game. And you'd rather have issues and win the game than issues and lose the game. And it was their first road game. It was so late at night. It was chaos. I had the Colorado State game on my phone, I think, and then that KU Nevada game on the TV. And I had been up since about 6:30 in the morning is when I left for Columbia. So it feels like I'm glad that you guys remember it too, because I thought maybe it was a fever dream or something. But I'm glad that you guys can confirm I actually was awake and all that happened. But yeah, you pull out the win. It's one of those, if you lose, you're talking about for years to come, and if you win it, people probably forget about it a few months from now.
These night games, this is going to be something this conference has to figure out, because correct me if I'm wrong, I was just looking for it real quick, but I believe Cincinnati is going to BYU next week and playing, I got it, a 9:15 p.m. game, so 10:15 on their clock, after being at home this week with Oklahoma. Then they fly all the way across country and kick off almost 12 hours later than they're kicking off this week. Guys, this is nuts. They're going to have to be really careful with this. There's going to be sometimes it's unavoidable, but this is a huge advantage to the Western teams. And I think it's going to have to be something that not only the conference needs to set some guidelines with their TV partners, but come on, really, you're going to take an Eastern team and send them all the way out to Provo and play them at 9:15, 10:15 their time? Everson, I'm not a fan of that.
No. And then I think we're going to run into weird stuff like this. I thought it was weird that KU was kicking off at 9 o'clock.
Yeah.
I mean, I also saw that on kind of the flip side of this, Colorado and USC is scheduled for the big noon Saturday on Fox, which is going to be, that's noon Eastern. So that's 9 a.m. for USC. Which, I mean, whatever. I mean, you're already up, but still, I mean, it's something that we are going to need to figure out, especially now that there's so many shining sea conferences. But it's not it's not ideal, certainly, and especially if you're a media person and having to deal with that. I didn't make it through the Colorado State game. And so if I was having to be in Reno covering KU at, midnight our time and still have to write a story and all that, good Lord.
Yeah. And the one thing that I know a lot of people have asked me about, they do a lot of this in, and on the Pac-12 where they go, because you go to Oregon. And then say I'm Utah and I go to Oregon and I play Oregon and Oregon State, like in basketball. I'm wondering if some of that doesn't happen for football and somebody just stays out there for an entire week. And maybe they play, Arizona, and then the next week they're playing Arizona State, or they play BYU. Because if that's a Cincinnati, now again, if the schedule makers do that, then you got to think somebody's insane up at the schedule makers at the Big 12. But if they were to do that, I mean, why would you fly back? If I played Arizona State, why would I fly back to Cincinnati only for 4 days later have to fly back to go play Colorado or BYU? So, but some of it's going to be unavoidable, because that is going to happen. You're not going to be able to get out of some of that stuff happening. So I don't know. It's a mess. I'm glad I'm not in charge of it, but I just don't believe that you have to have these late kickoffs, even on the West Coast. I mean, I don't care what anybody says. Look, everybody stayed up for the Colorado game. Yep. Most people stayed up and watched it. They stayed up for that game. Everybody's not staying up for Central Florida against BYU. On the West Coast, the game starts at 9 or 10 o'clock Eastern time. They're just not going to do that. So how much ratings are we losing out on by doing that versus having the game kick off at 6 o'clock? To me, it just doesn't make sense.
Brian, they're not going to be happy you call them Central Florida. I'll start with that. But
you're right.
Also, what you call it a mess. It's only going to be a bigger mess come basketball season, right? You're playing 2 games a week, and you might have a team going Saturday, Monday, or Wednesday, Saturday, or whatever. And I mean, are you going to play? Are you going to play are you going to play UCF one day and then come out and play? I don't know. Play in Lubbock the next day or wherever you're going. I mean, it's Colorado or wherever. I mean, that's going to be a travel nightmare. I'll be interested to see what we do get. If we get something where, Central Florida, UCF is going to come up and play KU on a Tuesday and play K-State on a Saturday. Or they're going to go, or they're going to go play 2 Texas schools. Maybe we'll get more of that. That would make sense to me, but maybe not. I don't know.
Well, in the smaller sports, it's already, the change has already happened.
Yeah.
Right. Volleyball plays TCU Thursday and Friday in Manhattan. And I think that's just kind of the standard now. You're either play single games, or if you play 2 games, you'll play them back-to-back at one site. And that goes for even K-State KU. Later in the season, K-State will play back-to-back games, volleyball games in Lawrence, even though it would be just as easy to do it, one in Manhattan and one in Lawrence. So it's weird.
Okay, I want to back up. Tim, did you say Fox is covering Colorado again?
Correct.
Glenn, you represent 3 TV networks on this. I'm the CBS guy. You have the Fox banner somewhere there. What the hell is this Joel Klatt? Is Joel Klatt just gone full on Coach Prime and we can't get out of it?
Just like I told people when they were mad with the DirecTV stuff, when they couldn't get NBC on DirecTV, I didn't make the decision on that. I also don't make the decision on where Fox goes for big noon kickoff or whatever. They don't even accept my input.
Whatever.
But I don't know. I guess Prime's the hot topic, and they're gonna keep riding with him until the ratings don't show up, I guess.
Brien, one quick final thing on Coach Prime. He is an incredible story. This is incredible to watch. It's so unconventional and refreshing and annoying at the same time. And I am just amazed that the Big 12, despite playing such crappy football right now, will be at 16 schools and have this coach in its conference next year. I feel like the Big 12 just went from being very unfortunate in conference realignment to really fortunate and getting all the access that, picking up teams for the Pac-12, which is right now a better conference in football. And the Coach Prime story is going to be huge for the Big 12 because look at the networks lining up to cover these games. And I don't think that's going to end with Coach Prime. He brings ratings, period.
He brings ratings. And look, I'm one of those people that I'm on board.
Yeah.
Look, it's unconventional. He's changing the way that college football, how they do college football, how it's being done. There's a lot of people that are upset by that. But for me personally, I'm not, because you can't tell me there's a difference between bringing in 58 transfers or 30 or 32. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing that's so hypocritical is everybody is mad at him for bringing in all these transfers. Well, OU brought in 30, and they had a 6-7 season. And then guess what? They bring in 30. Ole Miss the last 3 years has brought in almost 100 transfers over a 3-year time period, and nobody has said a thing about that. So I'm for it. The Big 12 is going to be so much better for it. I will say this, though. I believe the hype train of Colorado is about to come tumbling down. Because
it almost did.
Yes, I believe that it's going to come tumbling down. I was talking about this all day on Twitter on Sunday. I'm like, look, we've all watched football. And while we got our pom-poms out for Coach Prime, we saw that defense. And Oregon, I'm telling everybody, they are going to line up and say, we're better than you. And they are going to run the ball down Colorado's throat. And there's not going to be anything that they can do to stop it. So I just the hype train of that is going to stop. Now, can they go on and win 6 or 7 games? Because you start digging into Colorado's schedule. And you're like, well, where are the other wins coming? Arizona State stinks. So they can get one there, and Stanford. But other than that, where are the other wins? Maybe Arizona, but it's going to be tough. But just to get back to it, Fitz, I love it. I love what he's doing. Cool. It's going to be so exciting for this conference and bring something. And to be honest with you, in football, I don't know that it's ever had a superstar celebrity type of coach in it ever before. I mean, we just haven't had that.
Yeah, Brien, I think it's interesting too. Yeah. I would be fascinated to hear how much the Prime effect, if you want to call it that, weighed into Brett Yormark's decision. And it makes him look really, really smart, not only for adding them, but also for the timing, because I don't want to make an assumption, but if I'm Yormark and I'm seeing Prime over the summer and I'm seeing all the attention that he's getting before they even won a football game, and I'm saying, you know what, 2 things. One, I think I want this guy in my conference, right? Like I think I said after their first win, Yormark was seeing dollar signs. I said that, and I'm also saying hey, this Pac-12 media deal that their commissioner keeps saying they have, but he won't ever tell anybody about it. And it's like, is the media deal in the room with us type of deal? That thing, if Prime goes out and does all this, they might actually get one. There's going to be some networks that say, we want that guy. And Yormark got it done just in time to where when networks say, we want that guy, he can go, oh, he's with us.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Absolutely. I think it's absolutely incredible. Look, I think the Big 12 conference is so much better for it. We can badmouth Colorado and their program all we want, and they deserved it. They were horrible for 2 decades. I mean, they were just bad. But you know what? I watched that 60 Minutes interview last night, and it's they took a chance. I think what the athletic director basically said was, it can't get worse. He's not going to do any worse than what we are. If it works, I'm a genius. Without him actually saying that, that's exactly what it was. If it works, I'm a genius. If it doesn't, it's not any worse than what we were. So why not do it? Good for us. Good for the Big 12.
My final 2 thoughts on the Coach Prime Colorado thing. First of all, the students rushing the field after beating Colorado State, I don't care. Let them have fun. They're students.
College kids, man.
Yeah, exactly. Go have fun, man. It's a college experience. You're going to remember that forever. Well, I mean, if you weren't really high, you remember that forever.
Some of them will remember.
Yeah. And finally, the hit Travis Hunter took, that has no place in football. Why he wasn't ejected, I have no idea. And I still am firmly in belief that when you injure someone with a personal foul, you should not play until they can play again. If they're out for the rest of the season, you're out for the rest of the season. You want to clean this up, make the penalty that severe. But that thing was dirty. Okay, Brien, what does K-State need to do best to beat UCF on Saturday at 7 p.m.?
Just be physical.
Right.
Go back to being a physical K-State football team, man. They run the ball downhill, play good defense, stop the run, which we did do on Saturday. We stuffed what Missouri was trying to do running the football again. Outside of one run, they couldn't do anything with us. So just go back to being physical. I think that's where we need to live. I don't think that our receivers are going to be able to do the things outside that, they're capable of doing. That's fine. Just keep running the football. They'll bring the safeties up eventually. We keep getting 7, 8, 9, 10 yards a pop running the football. Those guys will drop down, and then we'll be able to throw it over their head. So just go back to being physical on both sides of the football and let things take care of itself. Go back to being us.
Tim Everson, the guy who didn't charge his light properly. You're still a shining star on this podcast.
Thank you.
I love this game. I love having UCF in the conference. I hope we don't have another storm like we did, in 2010? My God. But this is a game. Brian's right. Get back to being who you are. And Christian Duffy coming back should be a big help to that. Even though he may not play the entire game, he will be available, and it's got to help.
Yeah, no, they need him back. They need that continuity. They need to find that chemistry that was working so well last year and kind of get this offense back into a rhythm. Even last week with Will Howard playing so well, it never felt like things were clicking at kind of a regular level. They need to kind of refine their offensive identity here. And I'm hopeful that they'll do it against UCF. It's not maybe the opponent that I would 100% pick if I wanted to pick a bounce back, but I wouldn't have said that of Oklahoma last year either. So we'll see.
Glenn, if they go with Avery Johnson, does that affect K-State that much?
I think the answer is we don't know.
Yeah.
We've seen that he can run the ball, but again, when he ran the ball and it was okay against Missouri, but when it was electric running the ball, that was against backups for SEMO, right? And so I saw the kid play in high school enough to know that he has an arm. Yep. And we saw him break some tackles and avoid some defenders of good college defenders. So I think he's a good quarterback, but I'd be, I don't think it's fair to say, oh, it's not much of a step down, and it's also not fair to say, oh, that'd be a disaster. We just don't know. He could end up playing, and we're like, oh my gosh, how did we not have this guy on the field all the time? And he could end up playing, and we say, let's put Jake Rubley in for the second half. So I don't know. And the other thing I'll throw out here off topic before we before we wrap up here, Green is not listed on K-State's depth chart this week. So the K-State might be without one of their top defenders.
Yeah, I was just going to touch on that. We had a question from Cole in the chat. I did hear before we started this that Daniel might be done for the year with a shoulder injury, which is just awful. This kid could not stay healthy, came back to have a full season, and now this happens. I don't know what Jake Clifton's status is. Not good. He's the backup, so that maybe Austin Romaine will step in as a true freshman in this game. Very interesting. We don't know on Will Howard. We're going to find out more all about that on Tuesday at the Chris Kleiman press conference. And that will be a wrap on the Insiders. Remember, next week we're going primetime in honor of primetime. Not the coach, just in honor of the period from 7 to 10. We'll be live at 7 o'clock because I have an appointment in Kansas City during this time of the day. So I'll get back from Kansas City. We'll flip the switch and we'll do a little magic with next week's edition of the Insiders. For Brian, Glenn, and Tim, I'm Fitz. We appreciate you listening so much as we wrap it up here, and we will be back next week with more talk about K-State and UCF.
Thank you for listening to the PowerCat Podcast. Make sure you're subscribing to our show at Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With Blue Link Plus, you can access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
There it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
On Paramount Plus,
the choice is lightning in a bottle.
When you are associated with something legendary, you're like, what am I supposed to do now?
Witness the story of Black Sheep's Dreads and his new chance of a lifetime. Catch The Choice Is Yours, now streaming exclusively on Paramount Plus.